In church history, there was a time that was referred to as the intertestamental period. If you've read church history a little bit, you probably would have heard of that. The intertestamental period is also what we call the silent years. It is the period between the old covenant and the new covenant. And it was believed to be for a period of about 400 years. And one of the reasons why it was referred to as the silent years is because during that period, there was no record of the speakings of God. During that period, there was no record that God said anything at all. It was a silent period. It was a period when no man could pick any signal from God. God did not say anything. But now, this is my worry concerning that period. That God didn't say anything did not stop services from holding. They were still meeting to worship. They were still meeting to preach. So the question now becomes, if they were preaching and God was not speaking, what were they saying? That it is possible for a people to be caught up in a system, in a structure, in the rhetorics of going and coming, and nobody is burdened with the current emphasis of God with respect to the reason why they were gathering. And this did not happen for 1 month, it didn't happen for 2 months, it didn't happen for 3 years, it didn't happen for 10 years, it happened for 400 years. Services were going on, people were meeting in the synagogues, people were having what you will call gatherings, but God was not saying anything. In fact, in the midst of all of those things, it was in meetings like that they came together and said, you know what, we need leaders in the house of God, so let us appoint leaders in this house of God. So they appointed men, as if it was God who chose these men, but God did not have any business in the choosing of those men, and church was going on. It was that period that gave rise to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Sanhedrins and the teachers of the law. It was that period. And so because people were caught up in the rhetorics of spiritual, what you would want to call spiritual, but exactly not even spiritual, religious activities, they had forms. And the day God decided to speak, it was these people that fought the speakings of God. You wouldn't blame them, because imagine somebody 400 years, you would have lived and died, your children will live and die, their children will live and die. You're probably talking about some 3, 4, 5 generations or even more who have lived their lives. Just imagine that since you were born till now, you have never had any experience of the speakings of God or even touched any possibility in God before. You would have taken a form, you would have generated ideologies that is without God. Do you understand that? That's how these people lived. And then all of a sudden, amongst them, you have the Sadducees were those who did not believe in the resurrection. They didn't believe in the resurrection. The Pharisees believed in the resurrection. But then it was still by the laws of Moses that they ran their lives. These guys don't see at all. They don't like themselves. The only time they decided to like themselves was when the word now came. So they had structures. They had what you will call systems. They were organized. But what was lacking is the word. It's the word. The word was lacking in the people. So they knew how to sing, probably knew how to recite the laws of Moses, recite the Torah, and all of those things. They understood all of those things, but they didn't know the speakings of God. So that was a major problem. So my problem for that entire arrangement was that if God was not speaking, unto whom were they gathering? And it was obviously a very religious setting, a very religious system, because they had religion written all around them. They had all kinds of religious policies, but God was not in it. And people will gather, and they will gather in their numbers, but there's always something to say. That a man can fall into that trap where there is always something to say, and the people like what you are saying. But even you and I know that this is not the speakings of God. It's just we have learned how to say things, and people will enjoy what we are saying, and they will gather because we like the way they talk. See, if there's one thing you want to is deliver yourself from the pressure of wanting to say things because people want to hear it, and it is not what God is saying. And sometimes what God is saying may not be what the people want to hear.